guy that they promised me. You see, they promised me only to be here 20 of these guys here. They're gonna come, and probably a little bit they are on the way. As Bakasha, it was raining today. Probably that's okay. No problem.
Baruch Hashem. B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. Glad to be here again. Baruch Hashem, we had a good Tisha B'Av shiur here, and a lot of people online actually liked it a lot. Also, we got a lot of good questions, and that's what we've been doing lately. Is instead of preparing a basic subject of a shiur, Baruch Hashem, there's enough Torah that we can cover. We can talk for the next 10 hours. If you guys want to ask questions along the shiur, at the end of the shiur, at the beginning of the shiur, ask. It's not prepared, so whatever you ask, we can answer B'ezrat Hashem. Hashem gives us the words. But one thing I was thinking about on the way here, it took almost an hour and a half to get here from my house. And B'ezrat Hashem is probably going to be an hour and a half to come back home. And I'm thinking, so figure, if my average shiur is usually 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes, but I think today it's going to be maybe around 45 minutes or an hour. Unless you guys want to stay here all night, I'll stay here with you. If you give me the zchut to study with you, B'ezrat Hashem will stay till the morning. My wife already writes me off. She goes, you have a shiur? See you tomorrow morning. But I was thinking, okay, you're going to drive an hour and a half. Another hour and a half is 3 hours. For 45 minutes shiur, so I'm like, what does this mean? So then my Rav reminded me, a Gemara in Masechet Chagiga, it says Rav Idi used to travel 3 months to go to shiur Torah with Rabban Yochanan, 1 day, study him for 1 day, and then 3 months back home. So the sages at the yeshiva over there were saying, you're wasting your time, you're a rabbi for a day. And Rabban Yochanan says, no, you're all mistaken. You're all mistaken. His Torah is more valuable than all of yours. He can curse all of you for making fun of him. And he says, why? I mean, we study all year. He studies 1 day. Of course, he didn't waste his time throughout the 3 months that he traveled back and forth. But he says, when you actually want to get to a high level of Torah, you want to get really close to Hashem Yitbarach, you have to listen to one of the most famous Baalei Tshuva in history. His name is Resh Lakish. And Resh Lakish in the Gemara Masechet Brachot says, anyone that wants to inherit Torah, wants to not just learn from the books, and you learn a few things, you remember 1% of what you learn. You want to get glued to the Torah, he says, it requires you to get to Mesirut Nefesh. You have to be willing to die for the Torah. So Rav Idi was willing to die for the Torah, traveling 3 months one way, 3 months the other way for 1 day. So Baruch Hashem, we don't have to travel three months, we travel 3 hours. But Baruch Hashem, it's always great to teach and learn with young guys. And one of the things that we did in New York, a recent trip, is a group of maybe 40, 50 guys in Brooklyn. We had a shiur there and talked about the personal story and a lot of other things, is that the thing that excites me about young people is that I wish somebody told me, when I was your age, what I'm going to tell you. And the reason why is because when you are at this age, 18, 20, 25, you're going into the real world. You're already in the real world, but you're going into the next level. And like the Rav says, you have a choice. One choice is to do whatever you want. Whatever goes, goes. Whatever is in front of you, you take. Survival of the fittest mentality. Or you think about Hashem, and you try to connect your day-to-day life with Hashem Yitbarach. When you actually live like a lion, unfortunately, at some point or another, you realize that the lion doesn't actually have such a pleasant life. But many people only find this out when it's already too late. They already got used to the lion lifestyle. Now, like the Rav says, I have a little bit of experience in that world. I worked on Wall Street for 16 years at a brokerage firm, a hedge fund, a insurance company. I trained over 135 different people to become good salespeople. Some of them became millionaires. Some of them quit. But Baruch Hashem, I have a lot of experience with the business world. I was on CNBC, Bloomberg, and a bunch of other news networks. And I also know what money is like. What most people here in the world chase. We got there, Baruch Hashem. We got there. We lost it. But the key is that you have the experience that you can write home about. And when you live a life, you're surrounded by people that are chasing money, and you have the experience. You say, it's not worth it. If I never had any money, and I told you, listen, you really shouldn't invest so much of your time chasing money your whole life. You should invest your time chasing God. If I never had any money, what does he know? But if I told you that one day in my career in May of 2006, one day, I made $1.6 million. In one day. Not in a year, not in a career, in one day. So I have a little bit of experience about money. And I'm telling you, shtuyot. Waste of time. You can go make a living, work, do what you got to do. Survive. You have to eat, obviously. After all, we're not Dora De'ah. We're not the generation of Mount Sinai that gets man from Shemayim. We have to work. Fine, no problem. But there's a difference between working to live or living to work. When you live to work, like most people, you start your day with work, you finish your day with work, and if you have any time in between, you eat. That was my life for a very long time. Sometimes we do Hashem a favor by going to the synagogue, just to say Shachrit, put tefillin on for 5 minutes, like we're doing God a favor. The Rav is saying Kaddish, a few people are talking, they're doing Chazat HaShatz, they're going after they're repeating the Amidah, everyone's talking, and what's going on, do you see the market today, do you see this, do you see this? No one's really interested in being there, but they feel like I have to pay my dues, so I'm part of the community. What happens? Your mind's not there. Your mind's not there. And the reason why your mind's not there is because something that Chazal used to have all the way until about a few hundred years ago is missing from our day-to-day life. And it's called Musar. Musar in today's world, in a secular world, is called self-help. It's called self-help. People hire coaches to come speak. People hire people like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, and people like that to tell them what to do. If you want to succeed in life, do this, 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 and this. You want to have a good marriage, do this, 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 and this. Now, all of this is available in our Torah, as a matter of fact. It's actually a very critical part of the Torah. But somewhere around a few hundred years ago, a few people made a decision that to slow down the Musar and start teaching theoretical Torah. Theoretical Torah meaning that we're teaching Torah like, love God, everything's going to be fine. Learn the halachot, eventually you're going to get to a point where everything's going to be okay. And the reality of it is that in generation today, unlike Dora De'ah, we're Dora Ba'aya. That's the generation of knowledge, was in Mount Sinai. We're the generations of problems. Instead of knowledge, we have problems. Why? Because we don't have the cure that made Am Yisrael go from the 49th level of Tum'ah in Egypt to the 49th level of Kedusha by the time they got to Mount Sinai. What got them there? One of the main things was the Musar that they actually had to learn along the way. It wasn't just the mitzvot. The mitzvot are there for you to actually improve yourself. So now Shlomo HaMelech, everyone's heard about Shlomo HaMelech. In Ketuvim, in the Chronicles 1, it says, "Vayeshev Shlomo al kisei Adonai lemelech tachat David aviv, vayitzlach vayishmeu elav kol Yisrael." So here we see Shlomo HaMelech became the king of Israel after his father David HaMelech. And he was right before Bar Mitzvah. So Hashem says, ask for whatever you want and I'll give it to you. So you would think, average, give me a PlayStation, maybe an Xbox, a nice Ferrari, the newest model, not last year, it's already too old, nice house, a lot of money. Money is just the beginning. You want to have mountains of money. That's what you would think you'd ask. 12, 13 years old, you want all these things. What does Shlomo Melech says? "Ata chokhmah u'madad ten li, ve'etza lifnei ha'am hazeh ve'avoa ki mi eshpot et amecha hazeh hagadol." Grant me, he says, ask for God. Grant me wisdom and knowledge, so that I may go out and come in before these people, so I can judge them, these great people of yours. So in essence, he's saying, Hashem, no money, no girls, no houses, no nothing. What do I want? I want wisdom. Why? Because as a melech, I'm going to have to judge these people. I'm going to tell them what to do. I don't want to judge them based on my opinion, because my opinion is flawed. It's human. Human opinion is always flawed. Just so you know it. As smart as a person is, it could be Bill Gates, it could be Warren Buffett, it could be Stephen Hawking, it could be anybody. It could be a rabbi. If it's human, it's flawed. Doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, but it's flawed. Why? Because our opinion changes over time. About 100 years ago, a company had an opinion that they should put certain chemical in their drink to entice people to drink their drink. And they were right. A lot of people bought their drink and started drinking it. It was called Coca-Cola. The problem is that the chemical they put and where they got the name Coca-Cola was cocaine. So all the babies immediately drank the Coca-Cola. Little babies, mom would want to give their kids anything. Because Hashem, you have kids, you're going to see, you're willing to give your kid anything just to stop crying. So moms were giving their kids Coca-Cola, immediately your kids stopped crying. It's like, oh, Baruch Hashem, this is like from Gan Eden. Little do they know, it's killing the kid. So this was human logic. And human logic continues today to develop drugs and develop different systems that are flawed. So Shlomo HaMelech says, I want divine logic. I don't want human logic, I want divine logic. I want you to tell me everything to do. So Hashem says, because you asked for this, I'm going to give you wisdom, I'm going to give you money, I'm going to give you power, I'm going to give you everything. So this Shlomo HaMelech is known to be the smartest, the wisest man that ever lived. Hashem gave him a mamash, Chazal explains it, and if they didn't say it, we wouldn't even be allowed to say it. He got mamash the highest level of Chokhmah up to the point where it's like one level below God. If we could even understand what this means. So this very same person had everything, had money, had 1,000 wives, had power. No one wanted to fight him. Everyone loved him. Anything you could possibly imagine. And he tells you this pasuk in Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, chapter 11, verse 9. שמח בחור בילדותיך, והיטיבך ליבך בימי בחורותיך, והלך בדרכי ליבך, ובמראה עיניך, ודע, כי על כל אלה יביאך אלוהים במשפט. So he says something very peculiar. He says, rejoice, young man. Celebrate. In your childhood, let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Follow the path of your heart and sight of your eyes. Is the first part of the verse. In so many words, he's saying, young man, do whatever you want. Go party, go with the girls, go to clubs, do whatever you want. That's what it sounds like. Just do whatever is in your heart, do it. What's in a young person's heart? Only bad things. Anything we want is usually bad, the Rambam says. We want a lot of money, it's bad for you, a lot of money. Why? You have a lot of money, you have a lot of problems. You start doing crazy things that you wouldn't do if you didn't have money. For example, suicide is not a poor man's problem. Suicide is a problem that rich people suffer from. You don't see the homeless guy committing suicide. Very, very rare you're ever going to see a homeless guy committing suicide. Who do you see committing suicide? Rock stars. Movie stars. Multi-billionaires. Multi-millionaires. The guy just a few weeks ago from Lincoln Park, the very famous rock and roll group, committed suicide. 3 months after his best friend committed suicide, who was also a rock and roll star. 1 year after Robin Williams committed suicide. Each one of them had no less than $100 million. No less. So suicide is mamash 100% a rich man's problem. So he says, go follow your heart. Rambam says, you follow your heart, you're going to chase money, it's not good for you. Chase girls, it's not good for you. Why? You need to have one wife, not 100. Today we can barely handle one. And so on and so forth. So how could it be that the smartest man, the wisest man that ever lived, is telling us this is what you get when you're really smart? This type of advice seems strange. Seems like somebody from the club is going to tell you how to do that. Go do whatever you want. So then we have to read the rest of the pasuk. The rest of the pasuk says, but be aware that for all the things that you do, God will call to account. He says, do whatever you want. Whatever you want, chofshi. You want to go to Bekneset, go to Bekneset. You want to talk in the middle of Kaddish, talk in the middle of Kaddish. You want to do tefillin. You don't want to do tefillin, don't do tefillin. You want to be kadosh, be kadosh. You want to be tameh, whatever you want to do. But just remember one thing. There's one major klal in the Torah. You're going to have to pay the bill. You're going to have to pay the bill. The bill will eventually arrive, and there's no turning back. In the Gemara, one of the giant Tanaim in history says, not everyone is going to be happy when the Mashiach arrives. So they ask him why. He says, because it says, Uba letzion goel leshaveh pesha b'Yaakov. The Goel, the Mashiach, is coming not to save everyone. He's coming to save the ones who did tshuva. You did tshuva, it's going to save you. You didn't do tshuva, you're still a posher. You're still a criminal. You have a problem. You're not going to be happy when Mashiach arrives. Now everyone's worried about this Mashiach for 2,000 years. He's late. Like a typical Jew, he's late. 2,000 years already. The good news is, you don't have to wait for Mashiach. Everyone has their own personal Mashiach. The Mashiach that we have to deal with every day is Judgment Day in Shamayim. Everyone thinks that they're going to live till 120, but it doesn't necessarily happen all the time. My cousin, unfortunately, Zichrono Livracha, he died at the age of 26, just several months ago on Rosh Hashanah. He went on a scooter one day, second day of Rosh Hashanah, he wasn't religious, and he decided to go on a scooter. 26 years old, who wants to go on a scooter, cute kid, smart, was very, very good with computers, good looking, everything was going for him. His parents have a fortune of money. They could build pyramids with the money that they have. So everything was going for him. 26 years old, he goes on a scooter, he falls off the scooter. Innocent fall, but he hits his head. Goes to the hospital. They look at him and say, no, you're okay. You're fine. 26 years old, life's ahead of you. You have minimum, another 94 years. Minimum. He goes home, he goes to sleep, he never wakes up. Shem Elohim. What happened? Now, do you think that he, when he woke up that day, or his parents, when they woke up that day, they even thought as part of the equation that today Mashiach is arriving for him, today Judgment Day is arriving at 26 years old? It's a puppy. It's a baby. Just got out of diapers. What does he know at 20? What do you know at 26 years old in this world? Today, kids still live with their parents at 35. What do you know at 26 years old? Do you think that he thought, today I'm going to have to pay the bill? No. He thought, today I went on a scooter, like every other day. Today's another day. He didn't think it was Rosh Hashanah, which Rosh Hashanah is Judgment Day coming up in a month. He didn't know about that. So each and every single one of us needs to understand that that Mashiach doesn't necessarily need to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Judgment Day can happen on any given day, and we have to be prepared for it. Psychologically, spiritually, physically, in every way, shape, or form. Now, as a youth, someone that's very young, you have an opportunity. You could be the greatest generation that ever lived. You could be part of the greatest generation that ever lived. Or you could be just the one that missed an opportunity. One of the two chances. 50-50. Because right now, according to our sages, we're out of time. Mashiach has to come. He must come in our generation. Whether it's 5 weeks from now, or 5 years from now, or whenever. It's during our lifetime. So whoever is going to be ready for when the Mashiach comes, could be part of the generation that's going to be remembered forever as the generation that saw Mashiach. Eternally remembered, that's the tzaddikim that brought the Mashiach. The 20% that left Egypt, everyone remembers them. No one remembers the 80% that died in Egypt. No one talks about them. Everybody talks about the 20% that came out of Egypt. That's called Dora De'ah. It's called a generation of knowledge. They got to Mount Sinai. They all became prophets. It was amazing. We still talk about them today, 3,300 years later. Same thing here. Anyone's going to be alive at the time of Mashiach, and it's going to be righteous. It's going to be remembered forever. On the other hand, it could also be the one that missed an opportunity of a lifetime. So now, there's a few things that are affecting our youth today, are affecting all of us really. Young guys, old guys, affects everyone. One of the most important things is that we have no idea what to do, how to actually get close to Hashem Yitbarach. We think that when you see somebody with a kippah, maybe if he goes to the Knesset once or twice a week, especially on Shabbat, he's religious. This is not necessarily the case. There's many Baalei Tshuva that are keeping Shabbat for 5-10 years, but still they have a problem as far as really being considered religious. Simply because in their heart, they're still Chiloni. They're still secular. You ask them one daf Gemara, they have no idea what Gemara is, Bichlal. You ask him Parashat Shavua, he's like, yeah, when I get to Beit Knesset, the rabbi says something about some parasha. They don't learn Torah, they don't learn Musar, they don't learn anything. It's like cultural, more of an exterior thing. Now here, I'm not just talking about people that are still wearing tight clothes and t-shirts. I'm also talking about sometimes you have people with beard and black and white. Also don't know much. I met many of them. You look at them, they look like a mini Moshe Rabbeinu. The guy has a beard, which is free. It's free, by the way. You don't have to get it from Walmart for discounts. Free. Beard, free. Osama bin Laden also had a beard, by the way. Doesn't make you religious. Kippah, he got it for free from the Beit Knesset. Sometimes you don't even have to buy a kippah. But if you bought a kippah, a few dollars. Suit, he has to wear it to work anyway. White shirt, finished, you look religious. In today's world, you look not only religious, you look like a mini rabbi. A secular person or a goy looks at you and goes, hey, Moshe. No, not Moshe, it's Aaron. Oh, Aaron, can I ask you what to do? Everybody looks religious with a beard and a hat. The reality of it is that inside you ask him halacha, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Why? Because he doesn't make time to learn Torah every day. He did not make the Torah part of his day-to-day life. This is a very serious problem because the only thing that makes you Jewish is the Torah. That's the only thing. Before Mount Sinai, there was no Jews. There was Israelites. Israelites. Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov is also called Israel. His sons were called Israelites. After we got to Mount Sinai is when we became Am Yisrael. Before that we were called Bnei Israel. We were called Am Yisrael. We became a nation. We became Jews. What changed at Mount Sinai? We got the Torah. Meaning that if, Chas v'shalom, Am Yisrael said, no, we don't want the Torah, and somebody else came along and said, no, we want it, they would be Jews. But if you look at the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, I believe it's page 88, Hashem didn't give us that kind of an option. When we got to Mount Sinai, and it was time to give us the Torah, Hashem wanted to make sure that we knew that it was no option kind of option. So what he did is he made Mount Sinai bend and go over the entire nation, like a chuppah. And he said to them, here is the Torah. If you accept it, good. This is our chuppah. We're married. If not, this is where you'll die. This is your burial place. So Chazal asks, what kind of wedding is this? This seems more like a anus, like you're forcing them. So the Baal HaTurim says, of course he's forcing them. Because all of the malachim were shaken. Because they knew that in the beginning of time, when Hashem created the world, he made a deal with the angel that runs earth. And he says, listen, I created this entire world for the Torah. The Torah came before the world. 974 generations before the world was created, I created the Torah. Black fire and white fire. Gemara Masechet Chagigah talks about it. And it says, I created the Torah. But before I created the world, the Torah was theoretical. It's theoretical. You can't really use it. So I had to look at the Torah and then create the world. I looked at the Torah, I said there's kosher laws. Okay, so I'll create kosher animals. I looked at the Torah and I said there is modesty. So I'll create the human being to look a certain way where they can be modest, not modest. I looked at the Torah that you have to have good midot. So I'll create a character trait in a human being where they have gava. They have pride. And I hate pride. So I'm going to give him a test that if he has this pride, I don't like him. If he doesn't have it, I love him extra. Give him tests. Why? To make this theory go into practice. So then he created man. And he said, but listen, one day they're going to have to accept this Torah. And when they accept the Torah, we're full force. But if they don't accept the Torah, just so you know, I don't need them. I don't need anything. We're going back to theoretical again. We're going back to Tohu Vavohu. So the Baal HaTurim says, all the angels were shaking. Why were they shaking? They knew that if Am Yisrael, Chas v'Shalom, said, no, we don't want the Torah, Hashem would have brought the world back to Tohu Vavohu. Why? Im lo briti yomam v'layla, chukot shamayim v'aretz lo samti. If it's not for my covenant, meaning the Torah, being practiced, being followed, being learned day and night, the rules of the world will cease to exist. Hashem says to the prophet Jeremiah, only reason you have the world is for the Torah. So now, when you start understanding this, you say, okay, so what's in this Torah that's so important? The best thing about the Torah is that it makes you stay you. You stay, you don't change. Everybody's always scared about changing. No, I don't want to be different. I like who I am. My friends like me. My wife likes me. Don't worry about it. You're going to stay you. You don't turn into some mutant. You don't turn into like Wolverine and start stabbing people. Don't worry. You stay exactly the way you are. The difference is you become super you. You become a better version of you. Right now, without Torah, typical human being gets upset when somebody cuts them off. Not upset like, oh, shucks. Like in the movies in the 1920s. Ugh, he cut me off. No. Today, somebody cuts you off, you curse his mother, his grandfather, the great-grandfather. You start reading Tehillim for him to die because he cut you off once. We get so angry because the guy cut us off on the highway. Today, you find out that the guy gave you $20 extra change. You have to think about it 3, 4, 5 times if you're going to go back to the store to give it back to him. Why? Because he has enough. Look at the store. It's half a mile long, this store. He doesn't need the money, so he gave me $20 extra. I'm like modern day Robin Hood. I'm taking from the rich, giving to the poor. I was poor, I took it from the rich. We justify, we rationalize our terrible behavior. Without Torah, we are no different than a cow and a lion. No different. We work off of instinct. Torah, especially Musar, teaches you things about yourself you didn't even know. And it softens you. And it makes you a better version of you. So Bezat Hashem, you want to get married? You're actually going to get married to a decent human being. Because only decent human beings get decent human beings. But if you go look for a wife in one of the clubs, you'll find a wife. Problem is, she'll be a wife of 5 other guys also. You go into business, you'll find a business. Problem is, the business is probably not going to be that kosher. Even if it looks, theoretically, looks kosher. But it works on Shabbat. Or it lends money to people with extra high interest rates. Like unfortunately, a lot of Jews are going into this lending business. A lot of Jews are going into this lending business. This is the worst possible business for a Jew. Worst. Worst possible thing for a Jew to do. Number one, if your client is a Jew and you lend them money, you charge them interest, you lose Olam Haba. You have no share of the world to come. So now, on the application, you have to say name, address, phone number, social security, date of birth, religion. You have to ask your client religion. Oh, Jewish? No, I'm sorry, I can't lend you money. I'm going to lose Olam Haba. Who's going to do this? No one. No one's going to put religion in an application. They'll sue you. In America, you're not allowed to do such a thing. So you have a problem. You don't know if the client's Jewish or not. So now your Olam Haba is on the line for $5,000 loan. You're going to make $500. Your entire Olam Haba is on the line for $500. You go to Shabbat, you go to Tehillim, you give tzedakah, you give this, you did this. You're nice to everyone. $500, you lost Olam Haba. $500. Some people $50 because the boss took $450, they took $50. They work for him. $50 lost Olam Haba. This is the stupidest thing in the world. Imagine you have a multi-billion-dollar company, but everything was lost for $50. $50 commission. So lending, horrible business for a Jew. Second thing is that it's also an unethical business for the most part. These lending businesses usually are charging people 27, 28, 30, 35, 40, 50% interest. Eventually, the government's going to shut it down. It's a matter of time before it blows up, and Hashem actually does us a favor and blows up that business. And I'm telling you from the business world. Eventually, it's all going to blow up. Not for a while. But for Jews to be in that business, which unfortunately there's many of them, I think even many of them actually started that business, it's a very, very bad decision. So if someone is not connected to Torah, they could mamash destroy their world without even knowing it. The guy goes to work every day, he has a kippah, all of a sudden he started giving tzedakah because he makes $10,000 a month now. Guy's 20 years old, makes $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month, lending people money, thinks it's a tzaddik. He gives the bekneset, kvod harav, don't worry, I love you, it's $1,000 a month. He thinks it's a tzaddik, does tefillin, bought the extra good tefillin, everything is great. He doesn't realize how much of a disaster his job is. Torah is the only thing that's going to teach you that. You want to get married to a decent human being? You have to be decent. Your wife is only going to like you if you treat her fairly, if you treat her kindly, if you're generous, a cheap husband is hated by his wife. I can tell you this for sure. Any husband that's not generous with money and with compliments is eventually going to be hated by his wife. Money and compliments. A lot of people are generous with money, but they curse their wife out. And they talk to her, and they yell at her, they treat her like she's a slave. This wife is eventually going to kill you, either in this world or the next world. Why? Because you're killing her every day. Same thing with money. Sometimes the wife is raising the kid. You got 3, 4, 5, 6 kids at home. She's raising them. It's not easy to raise one kid. Imagine how much of a headache it took your mom to raise you. What about you, your brother, your sister? She's raising, the mom is raising 5, 6, 7 kids, 3 kids, 1 kid. Doesn't make a difference. Husband comes home, first thing he does, yell at her because the food's not hot. He yells at her because she didn't run to the door like she was when she was 20. Because she's running the house. So a husband without manners is destroying himself. Or sometimes you have husbands that are cheap with money. They feel like the wife is not working. Because she's managing the kids, they're not working. So they pretty much they torture her until they give her $100. Oh, but I need $100 for shopping, for food, for you. Yeah, but can't you do it for less? Can't you get your own money? What do you mean your own? You're my own money. I do this job, you do the other job. When you don't have musar, when you don't have the divine self-help, you're not going to know these things until it's too late, until your wife left. Because she says, listen, I've been living off of change I've been collecting on the street because you don't want to give me $100 every week. I have to beg my own husband for money. You know how many times I have women crying to me every day? My husband is cheap, my husband is cheap, my husband is cheap. I'm like, what do you mean cheap? The guy makes $100,000 a year. She goes, yes, but for me to get $100 more than what the groceries cost, for me to just have money to live, it's like a sipul. It's like a story from, it's mamash, living Gehenom in this world. Imagine a grown-up doesn't have $100. So musar is the type of stuff that's going to teach you how to become a decent person. You don't necessarily need to be Moshe Rabbeinu. You just need to be a decent person. The Torah is such an amazing thing to add to your life, just so you know, for all of these lefties that always try to go against the Torah, like, no, the Torah is sexist, the Torah is this, the Torah is that. The Torah is the only document in the world that gives special privileges to poor people. What's the special privilege? Hashem Yitbarach says, if you have a field, you must give tzedakah every year, and the tzedakah has to come at a specific time. It has to be at the end of the growing season. You have to give the corner. You have to give the last piece of the land as far as what's growing. It's called pe'ah. Pe'ah also means wig. It also means the end of the field. So Chazal in Masechet Shabbat asks, why the pe'ah? Why the end? Why can't he give it in the middle? Why can't he give it in the beginning? Why can't he give it whenever he wants? He's the one that's giving the money. Why are you telling him when to give it? I'm donating $10,000. You're going to tell me when to donate? Say, thank you, I'm giving you in the first place. No? Chazal says, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You must give it at the end. Why? Because, God forbid, the poor people are going to wait around not knowing when you're going to give. They're going to waste the whole season, the whole day, the whole month, waiting for you to give, and you're not giving for another 2 months. They can use that time to do something productive. You're not allowed, just because he's poor, you're not allowed to waste his time. Why? Because the Torah treats his soul the same way as your soul. The fact that you have money and he doesn't does not make your soul actually any better at all. As a matter of fact, it puts a kitrug. It puts the onus on the rich person to make sure the poor person doesn't stay poor. This is why, when one of the, I believe it was a, not Ben Ishchai, I confused the names, about almost 100 years ago, one of the major sages, his wife decided to buy a lotto ticket. And she told him, honey, I bought a lotto ticket. Immediately he started panicking. No, just so you know, the whole thing is yours. I don't want half of it. I don't want any of it. It's yours. It's yours. It's yours. You know, one of his Talmidim was there. He's like, Kvod Harav, what's the big deal? She bought a lotto ticket. She wins some money. What's the big deal? Why wouldn't you? Why is that a bad thing? You win $100 million. Isn't that a good thing? You build a yeshiva, another yeshiva, another yeshiva. You build a yeshiva until the MaShiach comes. You build a yeshiva in every state. You build a yeshiva in every town. What's wrong? What's wrong with winning the lotto? And he says to him, my son, do you know what kind of responsibility you have when you have a lot of money? He says, you can build stuff. He goes, no, no, no. If I have money, and there's someone in my circle, someone, doesn't have to be immediate family, doesn't need to be my son, doesn't need to be my cousin, someone that knows me, someone that I know he exists, and he has problems financially, and I have money and I don't help him, it's a kitog in shamayim. If you have money, and you still have people around you that are poor, you have a kitog in shamayim, you have a serious, serious problem in shamayim. Why? Because the only reason Hashem gave you the money is to do mitzvot with it. Not to buy a $2 million house. You want to buy a $2 million house? Fine. Just make sure nobody else is poor. First, nobody else is poor, then you buy a $2 million house. First, there's a kollel, then there's a $2 million house. You could live in a regular house. You don't have to buy a $2 million house. But today, we buy a $2 million house and a $2 million vacation and a $3 million second vacation. We have so many different houses, we forget that there's people. The Torah is the only thing that's going to remind you of this. That you have to consider everyone. Why? Because his soul came from Hashem just like your soul did. Same thing. The fact that Hashem gave you a gift of money is just giving you an opportunity to do something good with it. So the Rambam says, anyone who thinks that any material reward, whether it be money, car, house, whatever, wife, husband, anyone who thinks that the material that Hashem gives you is your real reward, your real prize for some mitzvah that you did, is very far away from the truth of Torah. To such an extent, the Rambam calls him a fool. If you think you got a house because you did some mitzvah, you're a fool. You think you got a nice car for $150,000 because you donate to the Beit Knesset, you're a fool. Rambam says this, not me. Why? He says because all of the money in the world, all of it, for all the people that ever existed, from the beginning of man until the end, is not equivalent of a reward for the smallest mitzvah in the Torah. All of it. All the happiness that ever existed is not enough to pay for one mitzvah. One. So why does Hashem give us money? It's based on the theory, it's based on the teachings of mitzvah goreret mitzvah. He says, oh look, this guy saw a homeless guy, he gave him $50, he gave him $20. Oh, he saw that there's 80% of Am Yisrael are not keeping Shabbat. So he's donating money to get Am Yisrael to start keeping Shabbat. He saw that people don't have place to study. He's supporting a kollel, he's supporting a yeshiva, and so on. He's doing mitzvot. I gave him 100, he took 10, he took 20, and he donated for Torah. So if I give him 200, I'll donate 40. I give him 1,000, I'll donate 200. So you know what? Let me give him 1,000. Let's see what he does. He gives him 1,000. The guy donates 200. He goes, wow, this is great. Let me give him 10,000 now. Mitzvah goreret mitzvah. You did one mitzvah. Hashem says, oh, this is a good investment for me. I gave him the money. He's actually doing what he's supposed to. Let me give him more. Meaning that if you really have emunah, you don't stop giving. Doesn't matter what the economy does. Doesn't matter what the market does. Doesn't matter anything. You know that Hashem's paying for it. Gemara in Beitzah and also in Rosh Hashanah says Hashem decides how much money you're going to make regardless of how much you work. Already on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, he decides Steve's going to make $100,000. Moshe is going to make 70. David's going to make 300,000. He decides what you're going to make. He decides what you're going to make. But he says one thing is excluded. The money for mitzvot. Any money you use for Shabbat, for holidays, for tzedakah, for mitzvot, is not part of that income. That's added to it. If I promised you 100 and you actually used 20,000 for mitzvot, that 20,000 I'm going to give you back on top of the 100. It's not deducted from the 100. Which means someone with a very high level of emunah, he doesn't stop giving. He doesn't think about, no, I don't know how much I have. My IRA is getting a little low. The market is a little tough now. The property is not sold yet. Wow, you know what, Rabbi? When I close this deal, I'm going to give you money then. There's 1.5 million promises like this every day here. And I'm sure Kvod Harav has been hearing it for many more years than me. When I close this deal, I'm going to donate to this, this, and this. When I finish this deal, I'm going to do this. Everybody is promising. Everybody's a MaShiach. Everybody's a Mashiach. When I'm rich, I'm going to build a kollel, I'm going to build a yeshiva, I'm going to build a school. I'm going to become Baal Chesed. I'm going to be Baal Koch, what is it? Kalba Savua. I'll be Kalba Savua from the Gemara days. He was one of the 3 people that financed all of Am Yisrael. Everyone, when I'm rich, I'm going to give this, 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 I'm going to give this. Okay, but today you have $50, you have $20, you have $100. Why don't you give that? Hashem only is happy with the $100. No, when I'm rich, Why? Because your tzedakah, when you don't have Torah, even the tzedakah of someone that doesn't have Torah is not real tzedakah. When someone does not have Torah and they give tzedakah to Beit Knesset, to kollel, to whatever, it's not really tzedakah. It's marketing. It's a marketing. Why? As soon as he gives $10,000 to Beit Knesset, when does he give it? Does he come to the rabbi secretly, quietly? For the Rav, for the Beit Knesset. For the Rav, for the kollel, you're starting a kollel, here's $10,000. Don't tell anybody. No, what does he do? 10,000 for the Rav, 10,000. David and Steve and John were all giving 10,000. He tells the whole Beit Knesset. The whole town knows he gave 10,000. Some guy invests 10,000, he invests 20,000 on a billboard to tell the whole world that he invested 10,000. Why? It's marketing. He wants the whole world to know. So when you don't have Torah, these character traits are the natural inclination of a person because the Yetzer Hara is in control. Without Torah, Yetzer Hara is the only thing in control. This is your opportunity. Every day, you take a little Torah. You go to Kvod Harav. You go to the books. You go even if you want to watch the shurim we have online on our website, bezrathashem.org. You have CDs here for free. You have opportunity to fix your neshama a little bit. Just a little bit every day. A little bit every day. If you do it a little bit every day, Bezrat Hashem, you will be the generation that everyone will remember forever. On the other hand, if we do it once in a while, then it becomes like eating once in a while. If I told you, listen, you can eat as much as you want. What's your favorite food? Steak. You like steak. You like, I don't know, you like pasta. You like whatever you like. Kebab. He likes kebab. Okay, so I say, you know what? You could eat as much kebab as you want, but only once a week. The other 6 days a week, you can't eat. How long is a person going to survive? He could only eat once a week. Whatever he wants, but only once a week. The rest of the week, he has to starve. Can he survive? Yeah. Most likely not, unless he's in very, very tip-top shape. Most likely he can't survive not eating and drinking for 6 days.
Oh, not drinking also?
Right, not eating or drinking for 6 days. 1 day a week, you can eat whatever you want. You're not going to survive. Why? Because your goof, your body, needs to eat every day. Your neshama needs to eat even more. Your neshama requires even more food, spiritual food, than your body. So when we go and we learn Torah only once a week, that means you're starving your neshama the whole week. So it's no surprise that the whole week you act like Antiochus, you act like Haman, and on Shabbat you're a little mini tzaddik. All once a week. So what would Hashem tell you? Listen, why don't you change it? Be Antiochus once a week, and be Moshe Rabbeinu 6 days a week. Let's change it. How do we do it? Learn a little Torah. But I don't mean learn Torah, we're just learning things and you just like it just goes through and it's just, a lot of people learn Torah and they become robots. I have a lot of people, Avrechim, yeshiva students, that tell me I helped them do tshuva. What do you mean? Your parents, your father's a rabbi. Yeah. Your brother's a rabbi. Yeah. This one, everyone you know is a rabbi. Yeah. So how did I help you, Bichlal? He goes, no, the first time in my life I actually got it, I actually have to connect to the Torah, I have to do something about it. For all my life I was a robot. So he knew the halachot, he knew the mitzvot, but he didn't think that it's something that he has to like mamash dig down inside his heart and implement it in such a way where it required him to change his character traits, required him to make him a better version of himself. A lot of people use the Torah to become robots. This is the worst possible thing you could do because it's poison. It's called ergel. You become used to the mitzvot and it's just like you just go through the motion. That's why sometimes you see people come to Beit Knesset. The rabbi is saying, the chazan is saying Kaddish and people are talking or they're on their phone. If you're talking or you're on the phone, when someone is saying Kaddish, when you're even in the Beit Knesset, even if you're in a Beit Knesset, without Any prayer at all. You're in a big Knesset, you start talking about baseball. You're in a big Knesset, you want to talk about business. You have to understand, in Shemayim, they're not looking at you in a very, very pleasant light. Why? Because your big Knesset, this big Knesset, and any other big Knesset that's a kosher big Knesset in the world, whether it's here or it's in Israel or anywhere, is a mini Bet HaMikdash. So you know, the prophet Ezekiel, Tanakh, it says when a third Bet HaMikdash is built, Be'ezrat Hashem, when you enter the Bet HaMikdash, you have to know there's one rule they're going to enforce very strictly in the Bet HaMikdash. What's the rule? You're not allowed to leave from the same place that you entered. You go into the Bet HaMikdash in one door, you have to leave in a different door. Yeah, but I parked my car in the front. Go all the way around. Yeah, but it's going to take me a half hour to get to my car. That's your problem. You're not allowed to ever leave from the same door that you came. Why? Because chas v'shalom, you're going to start looking at the walls of the Bet HaMikdash like the walls of your house, Chazal says. Meaning, chas v'shalom, you leave from the same place that you came in, and you start getting comfortable and used to it. Oh, this is Bet HaMikdash, it's like my house. It's like my house. Yeah, I'm used to it. It's nice. It's my Bet HaMikdash. Don't tell me it's my Bet HaMikdash. Come, let's talk about baseball, football, stock market. No. Never ever get used to the Bet HaMikdash. Never. Never get used to the Bet Knesset to the point we just talk about the stock market and this market and that market. No. This is a mini Bet HaMikdash. So when you see people, even more so, you start seeing people playing with their phone, talking to each other about nonsense, middle of tefillah, outside of tefillah, all of that stuff in the Bet Knesset, it's not very good. Why? Because this is a holy place. Shu'et Torah, from here till next year. Torah, you could talk as much as you want, but just common language is not good. Only the Torah is going to teach you such a thing. To treat a place that's holy like it's holy. When we treat the holy like it's mundane, then it just becomes like a social club. People come in, they hang out, they do nothing. Instead of reading Torah, they read the newspaper. Becomes like another place. Club. This is not good. So again, the Torah is going to make sure you separate those few things. So the Torah you're supposed to learn is the Torah that at the end of the shiur, at the end, whether you're reading the specific Gemara, or you're reading a specific Musar book, or you're reading anything, at some point during a day, you have to read something, you have to review something, you have to listen to something that shakes your heart, that makes you uncomfortable. But not uncomfortable like I have to get up. Uncomfortable to the point is like, I have to change. There's something wrong. I'm not Moshe Rabbeinu yet. I'm not the best version of me yet. I have to do something. I have to do tshuva. On what? You have to know it. Some people have to do tshuva for basic things like Shabbat or tefillin or kosher and so on. Some people have to do tshuva on other things, midot and other things. The point is, every day, the Vilna Gaon said, you must learn Musar at least a couple of times a day. And Rav Denzing in his Alacha book actually said, to learn the Musar takes precedent over you learning Gemara or Mishnah. It's even more important. Why? He says, because that's what's going to change you. Learning Alacha is good. It's important. You have to know what to do. But to stick with the Alacha, only Musar is going to teach you. A lot of people know Alacha, but they don't necessarily follow it. There used to be a person, his father was Gdol Ador. His father was Gdol Ador. But not Gdol Ador like some people know it. Gdol Ador, everyone knew. Even the Goyim knew who he is. But this son is the only person that ever had his head buried in one place and his body somewhere else. His name was Esav. Everyone learned of Esav, right? His father, Yitzchak Avinu, is Gdol Ador. Esav did not have the merit to get buried in Ma'arat HaMachpelah, like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. His head, though, his head was buried there because one of Judah's sons chopped his head off. And they left it. They said, since the head is already in here in the Ma'ara, in the cave, we'll bury it here. But the body gets buried outside. Why? Hashem says, Et Esav saneti. Esav, I hate him. He doesn't say, Paro, I hated. He doesn't say, Nebuchadnezzar, Yimach Shimo, I hated. But Esav, His father was Gdol Ador. His father is Yitzchak Avinu. His brother, Yaakov Avinu. His grandfather is Avraham. Esav Saneti, Nebuchadnezzar Saneti. Paro Saneti, Hitler Saneti. Why it's Esav Saneti? He doesn't say Saneti. He didn't say he hates anyone else. He doesn't hate Nebuchadnezzar. He doesn't hate Paro. He doesn't hate anyone else. Esav, I hate him. But his father's Gdol Ador, his brother's Gdol Ador. Great family. Like everyone tells me, no, don't worry, listen, I know I'm not keeping Shabbat. I know I'm not this and I'm not that. But my father is a big rabbi. My grandfather, huge rabbi. He wrote a book. I said, great, he's in Gan Eden. You have a problem. You can't enter Gan Eden because he's going to be the one who kicks you out. The fact that he wrote a book is helping him, not you. The fact that he was a rabbi, tzaddik, kadosh, everything, it's good for him. It doesn't help you. Maybe it's going to give you more time to do tshuva, but it doesn't get you. No one goes into Gan Eden simply because their grandfather was a tzaddik. Best example, Esav. Esav didn't, there is no better family than Esav's family. In the history of mankind, there was no better family than Esav's family. His father, Gdol Ador. Grandfather, even bigger. Brother, giant. Doesn't get better than that. But Hashem says, not only he's not someone I consider that I love him, I hate him. I hate him. He's the only one in the Torah, he says, I hate him. And on top of it, Gemara in Sanhedrin says, has no share of the world to come. Why? Why so much? Hashem, it's a little extreme, no? He says, no. Esav, he knew all the halachot. He knew everything. He knew all the mitzvot, he knew tzitzit, he looked like a tzaddik, beard all the way to the floor. He would tell his father, Abba, do we do maaser on salt? We give maaser on salt? He pretended to be righteous. But Hashem knows he was a rasha. He says he knew everything. He promised he's going to do tshuva every day. He promised tomorrow he's going to go to Beit Knesset. He promised tomorrow he's going to donate. He promised tomorrow he's going to do this. He promised tomorrow he's going to do that. Every day he would promise he's going to do tshuva. But he never did tshuva. Him that he knew and he didn't do it, that makes me hate him. And that's why the head is buried in Ma'arat HaMachpelah and the body outside. Because the head knew all the halachot. You know Torah? Good, you go Ma'arat HaMachpelah. But the body that's supposed to do everything, outside. Because you didn't do anything about it. So if your father's a tzaddik, if your mother's a tzaddikah, all that's wonderful. What about you? What about us? What about us? What are we doing? Every person needs to look in the mirror every single day and say, what am I doing about me? If Hashem comes and actually tells me, what are you doing about you? I have to have an answer. I have to have an answer. When each person goes up to Shamayim on Judgment Day, they're going to ask him to give a shiur Torah for 40 days. Straight. No jokes. Can't joke around in the middle of shiur and Shamayim. Can ask you to give a shiur Torah for 40 days straight. Today we struggle to do shiur for 2 hours. No one can sit down for more than 2 hours today. In Shamayim, they're going to sit down, listen to you, give a shiur Torah 40 days straight. Do you have 40 days of material? You have 40 days of material? You have to. To pass the test, you have to remember the Torah. You have to learn a lot of Torah to get up to Shamayim and say, oh, you pass. We want to listen to your shiur Torah for 40 days. So when you learn 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, like you're doing the rabbi a favor, you go up to Shamayim and say, I learn with the rabbi at least 10 minutes every other day. It's like, it's good, so you have 10 minutes. The other 40 days is missing. So all of these things, Chazal is explaining to you. You use this, you become a king of the world. You're tzaddik. You're righteous with Hashem. Everything else becomes better. You make Hashem's will into your will, and He will make your will into His will. Many people ask me, how do I get blessing on my business, blessing on my marriage, blessing for my kids, blessing, blessing, blessing. Everybody wants a blessing. Okay, Psada, blessing. No problem. You can get a blessing from even someone that's a fool. But the best blessing you can possibly get is from Hashem Yitbarach. The biggest rabbi in the world can't give you a blessing, even 1% of Hashem Yitbarach. And Hashem already told you in Mishnah Avot how to get a blessing from Him. How do you get a blessing? Make His will into yours. He says, I created the world in order for you to fulfill the Torah. I didn't create the world for you to look at Discovery Channel and look at the zebra being chased by the lion. I didn't create the world for you to watch the stock market for 8 hours a day. I didn't create the world for you to buy a new car and another car and another car and another car and buy $10,000 rims, but the Beit Knesset can't survive a week. $20,000 additions to the car, but there's people still hungry in the streets. Doesn't make sense. I didn't create the world for that. I created the world for you to fulfill the Torah. So if you actually look at the Torah, and you say, oh, Torah says I'm not allowed to be angry. If I'm angry, that's the equivalent of idol worship. Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah says, I get angry, I throw a remote control across, it's like Avodah Zarah. It's not good. These are small things. Seems like it's like a no big deal. It's a big deal in Shamayim. Why? Why'd you get angry? Hashem says, why'd you get angry? Oh, you got angry because you expect everything to go your way. So if you think that everything is going to go your way, you think you're a mini God. That's Avodah Zarah. You turned yourself into a God. So these things sometimes are hard to hear because all of us did everything. And sometimes we're still doing it. The point is that only thing Hashem expects you to do is to try to fix yourself. You don't go to Shamayim and hear them say, why weren't you Moshe Rabbeinu? They're not going to say to you, why weren't you Moshe Rabbeinu? Why weren't you Rabbi Akiva? They're going to say, why weren't you Steve? Why weren't you David? Why weren't you Reuven? Why weren't you whatever your name is? Why weren't you you? No, I was me my whole life. No. We give you tools to be Reuven the Tzaddik. We give you tools to be David the Tzaddik. You were David the Rasha. You violated 26 out of 52 Shabbats a year. What Tzaddik? We gave you tools to be Talmid Chacham. You were Talmid Chacham in the salary cap of all the football players. We gave you legs, arms, so you could drive a car. You bought a car, $100,000. Instead of using the car to drive 15 minutes to Shiur Torah, you drove an hour and a half to a football game. They tell people, no, come to the Shiur, come to the Shiur. It's like, no, it's far. What far? It's 20 minutes from your house, half hour from your house. Yeah, it's far, for the Rav. If when you come a little local, a little closer to my house, they want me to be inside their house, they're going to come to Shiur Torah. Outside, 20 minutes, too much. But to go drive an hour and a half to Disneyland, or 3 hours to Disneyland, no big deal. To go to a football game to see a bunch of people beat each other up, no big deal for 3 hours. Go to Shiur Torah 20 minutes, no, it's too far. Again, reminder to finish off, all of these things are constant reminders of how much work we have in front of us. We have a lot of work in front of us. Only the Torah is going to be the one that's going to remind us of it. And Hashem says, if you do it, I'm going to reward you endlessly. To such an extent that just the down payment was said in last week's parasha, Parashat Vayetchanan. He says, Meshalem el oavav v'shomrei mitzvotav le'elev dor. He pays his lovers who keep his mitzvot for thousands of generations, meaning it's past your life. You have eternal reward. It's not just getting the house and the car and the good wife and the kids. You have eternity. You have eternity. Eternity of reward. But Sonav, the ones that he considers his haters, he gives them whatever he owes them now to destroy them, he says. Meshalem el Sonav el panav le'avido. I pay my haters cash to their face to destroy them. Why? I take it very personally. I gave you tools to be Moshe Rabbeinu. I gave you tools to be Yitzchak Avinu. I gave you tools to be the tribe of Reuven, the tribe of Judah. What did you do? You became one of the Goyim. Why is Hashem taking it so personally? He says, on one end, I give you a lot of leniency. When we had the Korbanot in Bet HaMikdash, the last 2 points, Korbanot in Bet HaMikdash depended on things being specific time. Specific time. So the Tamid offering, the Korban Tamid, they would delay it every day. It was supposed to be at a specific time, but they would do it 30 minutes out of that time. Every day. Same thing every day. So 30 minutes. There was a time that it was supposed to be done, but they would do it every day, 30 minutes delay. Why 30 minutes delay? They said because there's human error. Meaning already in Shamayim, Hashem expects us to make human errors. There's errors. Okay, I learned Halachot Shabbat. I learned this, I learned this, I learned this. Once in a while you make a mistake. Hashem is not going to beat you up for making a mistake. It's a mistake. You have a mistake, bring Korban. Do tshuva, no problem. If it's an honest mistake, no problem. Tshuva is always accepted. But if the mistake is because you don't feel like learning, if the mistake is because you don't feel like changing, then you're putting everything on the line. Everything on the line. What's on the line? For the last 3,300 years, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents, all of them, all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu, suffered every single generation. Moshe Rabbeinu suffered, Yeshua ben Nun suffered, all the people in the desert suffered, all the people after that, everyone suffered every generation. We got attacked, we got beat up, we got this, we got all types of suffering. Pogroms, inquisitions, Holocaust. The Holocaust that everyone hears about, it's not the first time. It's happened a bunch of times. Bet HaMikdash was much worse. Much, much worse than the Holocaust. Just the Holocaust is the only thing we have pictures of. But it was much worse in a Bet HaMikdash. But we still stayed. We still continued. We still fought. For what? For you to be here, learn Torah. For you to be here and say, I am a Jew. Your grandparents suffered for thousands of years for you to be able to proudly say, I am one of the chosen people. I am a Jew. So unless we pick up the books and we start learning and we go to Kvod Harav and we start, Mamas, taking what he says into account. Kvod Harav, how do I work on my anger? Kvod Harav, I'm a cheap person. How do I work on it? Kvod Harav, I don't know, I can't watch my eyes. I look at everything that walks. How do I work on it? Anything that walks, especially here, Miami Beach, it's not exactly Gan Eden. Why? People walk around naked anyway. Here, they have an excuse. They blame the beach. So how do I wash my eyes? How do you wash your eyes? You do what the Kvod Harav did. What do you do? I overheard him say, Baruch Hashem, he says, I was in a Beit Knesset from the morning, I haven't left. If you're not working, go to Beit Knesset and learn Torah. Go to Kol Alon Torah. You're working, go to work, do what you got to do at work, come home, pray, come eat, pray, go to Beit Knesset, learn Torah. Don't go outside. You're not going to survive. You're not going to survive outside. You're not going to survive. Even if you are learning Torah, you're not going to survive. It's Sodom and Gomorrah outside, not just here, everywhere. People in this generation think that underwear became clothes. They walk around with tank tops and underwear, and they think they call it like, oh, I'm fully dressed. We're one generation from people being completely naked. Being outside, hanging outside, going to clubs, going to pubs, going to cafes, you're not going to survive. Why? Because any Torah you're going to learn, you're ruining it with your eyes. You look at things as a man. You look at things that are not appropriate. When do you end up thinking about them? During the time you're supposed to be with your wife. In Shamayim, it's a very big kitrug. So you go to Kvod Harav, you say, Kvod Harav, how do I work on my eyes? What do I have to do? How do I work on all these bad traits that I have? I have a list of things. Pick one. In Shamayim, they expect you to make errors. No problem. Make errors. Alayno larasi. Whatever you want. Make errors. No problem. But at least try. Do something. Why do you have to try? Why do you take it so personally in Shamayim? Because your grandparents suffered for so many years just for you to be here and call yourself a Jew. So please, do us all a favor. Take advantage of it. And Be'ezrat Hashem, all of us will do tshuva, get closer to Hashem Yitbarach, and may He make His will into, and may we make our will into His will, and His will will become our will. Baruch Adonai L'olam, Amen ve'amen.